It's not looking good. It's not looking good. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. And I have chosen to stay optimistic about the college football season. I always am a realist, but I also lean on the side of optimism. It's part of my faith. It's part of my belief in life. It's part of who I am. It's part of how I approach life. And I believe in the power of positive thinking to an extent. And so I've remained positive. I've typically had the countdown clock running toward that week 0, August 29th date. Of course, that has been moved based on the schedule revisions by the Power 5 and the rest of the college football landscape over the past several weeks, and specifically just in the last couple of days. But there are reasons based on some of the signs that we've seen just in the last 24 hours that should cause us all to hesitate, should cause us all to anticipate and understand that we could be very close to all of it falling apart for 2020. We've got the call-in show running at 1 a.m. Eastern time on a Saturday night, Sunday morning for good reason. I believe we could be finding out in the next several hours that college football will, for the first time in 150 years, this would be the first time since the inaugural college football season in 1869. We just celebrated the 150th year of college football. 1869 through 2019, 150 years, a century and a half of college football, largely interrupted, but not completely interrupted by World War I, by World War II, by other police actions and wars, Korean War, of course, and Vietnam, and the war in Afghanistan, 9/11, and how that affected the 2001 college football season. But we may be facing, not necessarily directly because of the result of the pandemic, but because of the decisions that college presidents and conference commissioners are taking that could be causing the demise of the current college football season. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, hold on, Mark. Don't go. Hey, I turned my fan off.
Okay, George.
Hey, Mark.
Cut that fan.
It's George, Mark. Listen to this. In 1971,
yes,
I was it 71? Yeah, I think so. I was in like the 9th grade or something.
Okay.
I was in Atlanta, Georgia, and they put me in a high school. I was in the 9th grade. It was high school. Sequoia High School in Atlanta, Georgia, 9th grade. High school. You following?
I'm listening. 1971, you were in high school in Atlanta, Georgia.
Right. Nobody in my whole family has ever played sports before. There was nobody that ever played sports in the history of my family, and I went out for the wrestling team.
Okay.
I won varsity.
Nice.
As a 9th grader, I was the 120-pound varsity wrestler.
I wouldn't want to mess with you.
Everybody in my family was, what the fuck? Like, how can you do that? Like, how are you a varsity wrestler? But I was so tenacious. I hurt people. Everybody was afraid of me. I'm like, oh my God, am I the starting wrestler? I was vicious. And it was all legal. You could do this shit legally to people. It was just like, facilities. This is legal. We can do this.
George, I've got to say that
In
you've
football.
taken this in a completely different direction than I anticipated when I first heard your voice.
No, but I'm just saying football is even better. They begged me, the high school, and when I went to Daytona Beach Seabreeze, I went to high school in Daytona Beach, Florida. The coach from the football team came to me at the wrestling practice, and he said, I beg of you, play football. We're going to make you the nose guard. I played nose guard. I weighed 125 pounds, and I was a nose guard. And every once in a while, I would get ran over by a steamroller. But other than that, I would just slip by the guy. I was so strong and shit, you know. But they would trap me on plays every once in a while, and I gave up football after 1 year. I just couldn't take it. Having 300-pound guys wipe me out at the same time, it was painful. But when I did good, I got to the quarterback in like 0.1 second. I would grab the snap sometimes, you know.
So I'm just sitting here, George. I'm contemplating what I need to retitle our call-in show here tonight. George's athletic exploits, George's greatness on the athletic field.
Everybody to know I just wanted everybody to know I'm a real person. Let's talk about the title of the show. What the hell is going on? Are we going to play college football or not?
So I've had a few conversations tonight. And based on some information that I've gathered, I think what's going on here, and I might be wrong. I want to go on record, number one, to say, I hope I'm wrong. And number two, to say that I could certainly be wrong. Because I don't think the coronavirus itself is enough to cause us not to play college football. And I know that I'm talking to the person that believes even more so than I do that it's not a reason to stop playing college football. But I believe that the athletic directors, and more specifically the presidents of the universities and the conference commissioners, are so scared of the response of the athletes that we've seen in recent days. The response of the athletes have been, we have power in numbers to organize, to demand, to possibly unionize, to fight against this and basically set our terms for play. And I think that considering the circumstances, until there's a known remedy, meaning a vaccine that is going to please most people, not necessarily me, but most people, and not necessarily you, I gather from our previous conversations, that right now that the concerns as interpreted by the data, it may be too much concerning organization of the athletes, pushing back, organizing, demanding, and possible litigation if things go wrong.
Yeah.
That's what I'm starting to think.
Right. Hey, Mark.
Yes.
I live in one of the best parts of Portland, Oregon you can live in.
Yeah.
I've been living in Oregon since 1982, I think, or 89, I mean. And it's heaven, right? But in the last 6 or 7 years, it's become hell. Do you understand that? Do you understand it? Like everything changed. It's not fun no more.
My only trips out west have been to Las Vegas and Southern California, so I know little about the Northwest. I've not experienced it myself, but you're telling me it was a slice of heaven as of a few years ago, and now it's gone downhill.
Las Vegas and Southern California are similar to Oregon. And I don't even know what to say anymore. I live in the best part of Portland. I have like 17 homeless camps within a mile of me. When I leave my house every day, I don't know which way to go. When I drive my car, I don't want to go by any of them. I'm afraid. It's freaky shit. It's like Mad Max, you know? Like I have to go the wrong way to get out of my apartment complex and get cut off at red lights and do all this shit just
right.
so I don't have to drive. So I don't have to drive through the homeless camps.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I'm just saying. This ain't no joke. If I go the wrong way and they don't like me, if I accidentally bother somebody, they'll come steal my car, break into my house or something. You know, it's over. They're everybody screaming defund the police. I'm like, listen, I don't like cops, but I don't fuck with them either, you know? I mean, I'm glad they're there in generally speaking. And no cop will come to anything in Portland, Oregon anymore. Everybody's on your own. It's Mad Max. It's over. It's just like Seattle. It's over. You're on your own.
Well, I hate to hear that, George, but I've seen it every night on the news, so it's not surprising me because we see it all over the place. It's happening all over the place,
We're
and
talking about football.
people are being bullied.
Football?
Yes.
Yeah, they're not going to give us football. They're not going to let us have that. How could they justify coronavirus if we play football? I mean, golf is one thing, but coronavirus and football, I don't think that mixes too good.
Even though the numbers are telling us that, I don't know, it's a small percentage of people. It's well less than 1% get the coronavirus.
Everybody knows.
And the athletes that are the ages of 18 to 22, they are for the most part. And when I say for the most part, hang on, George, don't talk over me, please.
Everybody knows already. You don't have to put yourself out on a limb. We all know.
Okay, George. All right, I got tons of calls coming in. Thanks for the call.
What I'm saying. You get what I'm saying, though,
yes,
right?
I appreciate it.
Yeah, we all know. Everybody knows it's a fake fucking take over America shit, and we're fucking.
Okay. George isn't listening.
Fuck us because we want.
George isn't listening to me. I've told him to get off the line about 18 times. So there's one thing. So George is a tremendous caller. George has commented to my channel more than anybody. I can say this without reservation, and I've not done the count myself, nor does YouTube do it for me, but I can say that George has commented to the channel more than anybody, so I will forever be indebted. But at the same time, when you call in, number one, please don't talk over me. I will try not to talk over you. Now, it's part of the course of conversation that you're going to talk over the other person a little bit. But don't just blindly talk and put your fingers in your ears and not listen to the other person. So if you're going to call, please just be respectful. And when I tell you like 18 different times that we're going to get off the line to take some other calls, then you need to listen to that because I want to properly get you off the line. I want to properly say goodbye and greet you. To say goodbye for the night, not to just kick you off the phone. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark. How you doing?
Deandre. Deandre, how are you doing? That's a better question.
Hey, man. Look, like I told Pete and Bobby, I'm thankful for all three of y'all support on Twitter and talking to me while I've been isolated, and I'm grateful for your help.
Well, I'm going to say, Deandre, that I'm sorry, and I apologize for not talking to you more. It should come to mind more often. I can always make the excuse of being busy, just like everybody else, but it should come to mind more often, the situation you're in, and check in on you more often. So, how you doing?
All right, and I know I'm grateful because I'm doing really good.
Good.
But I want to comment on the coronavirus, and I don't think everybody says, and not you, I'm just saying the stuff that I hear. Everybody talks about like it's close to the flu, less people get it. But, and I don't mind sharing my situation, so because I hope it helps somebody else out. Sometimes this coronavirus is based on blood type. And my blood type was A, and that's why it hit me so hard. I had the symptoms and stuff, but because of the blood type, and this is stuff that the media doesn't put out there and stuff like that, that's what caused mine to be so bad. And I don't want to get racist or anything like that, but there's this blood type. A lot of African Americans have it, and they don't realize that they have it. And that's why I think a lot of the football players are rebelling or talking about like, what is this, what is that, and stuff like that. I don't think that people go into that detail. And then the strain that it puts on hospitals is ridiculous. I had a buddy come visit me. He works in the hospital. He was like, yo, Deandre, I work in the kitchen. We barely got enough people to cook the food, and you have 1,000 patients. That's just patients. And I don't think people realize, like, the strain that it puts on our society. Yeah, it's maybe not that it's contagious or that bad, but it's just a strain that it puts on the health, the hospitals, and the people's health. And I just don't think that we talk enough about that. If it was more unified, like our federal government, I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, whoever, if they would have did a better job of saying, this is what we need to do, this is what we need to agree on to do, just like after 9/11, I think we will be all right now. But our government, and I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican, they didn't agree. They didn't work on what's best for the people of the United States. You got Florida doing one thing, you got New York doing another, you got North Carolina doing another. So nobody knows what to do. And I think if our federal government, don't care if you're Democrat or Republican, would have done a better job of taking care of this particular situation, I don't think we would be going through this right now. So, but I'm grateful that I have some great people who talk to me while I was sick. But that's my 2 cents on this coronavirus.
So, Deandre, one piece of information you gave us, and gave me in particular, is the blood type. So,
right.
I'm not going to say that I'm watching news 24 hours a day, but I watch quite a bit of news. And I've heard...
You never heard about it, have you?
Well, what I've heard a zillion times is that blacks and Hispanics are more susceptible and suffer, on average, a little bit more than, or maybe I shouldn't say a little bit more. They suffer more on average, to whatever extent, than other nationalities. But it has never been, I have never heard, I've heard that probably 100 times, and not one time was that ever stated to me through the various mediums. Why? You're the first person to say it's based on blood type that I've heard.
Yeah. Okay. And when I brought it up, this is what happened with me. I weigh 336 pounds. So, yes, I'm obese. I lost 20 pounds in 3 days. I had all the symptoms. I wasn't paying attention to my weight loss. I have a medical doctor friend from East Carolina. She was like, you need to go to, like, don't get in don't have your family drive you. You need to call the ambulance right now. And she explained it to me, what was going on. And because it was so rare, I never heard of it before. I didn't even know my blood type. She was like, what is your blood type? What is your blood type? And there's stuff, we have lived in this country over however many years. We know our government doesn't always tell us the truth about what's going on. And so that's what happened with me. So people say, well, I never heard of that. But I just came through it, and I know that's what happened. I had symptoms. I had a cough. I had, diarrhea. I had all of that stuff. But it was because of the blood type. It made it even worse. I don't know why. I have a blood type, and it tells me that it causes it to get worse. And I don't think that's why people really understand. We really don't know a lot about this virus. Everybody always says it's not. Flu kills more people. Okay. But then, why did that happen with me? Because your blood type. Just like you just said, you never heard of it. Everybody should just wash your hands, wear your face mask, social distance, quarantine for 14 days. I would get shots in the stomach, Mark. I would listen to one of your shows, and I would get a shot in the stomach while I would listen to your show.
Oh, man.
Because Yeah, it was crazy. I was like, I didn't take your phone for a second. Like, man, my boy work on the radio on YouTube right now. And I'm sitting there getting shot in the stomach. Because it worked. When I got there, and I hopefully help somebody else.
Yeah.
I don't mind talking about it. I had 107 fever for 3 straight days. But they said this is normal. Like, you're supposed to have fevers, right? They dumped me in an ice bath. As soon as I got in the hospital out of the ambulance to get my fever down. And they, and nobody talks about it. The stuff that these nurses and medical professionals are going through, I didn't see. I heard out my door a lady tell the nurse and the doctors, you don't have to fight me to get me back in here, because the lady said I'm supposed to go outside for 30 minutes. And the nurses and the doctors and orderlies are like, yo, we don't have the people to take you outside. So it's the strain of medical attention that people need. And then it's knowing that African American, Hispanic, they got sometimes you got different blood types. We all the same, but sometimes you just have different blood types and they might affect you differently. We don't know a lot about this virus. Corona's been around forever, but this particular strain hasn't. And that's stuff that we got to look at. I won't call football bad more than anybody. I love it.
I know you do.
I understand where these players and people coming from. Yeah, and it's just our federal government. I don't care. Nancy Pelosi, Mitch McConnell, Donald Trump, all of them people failed in this situation. We should have been nationally quarantined, whatever, for 6 months, whatever. And that didn't work. Try something different. But we should have. When this started hitting in March or February, it would have been over. And we should have did it. But because you're doing something totally different, one part of the state, that's what makes our country so great, because we can go to another state and do something different. But because we're selfish, that's also that caused our problem. And I hope it helps somebody else. Like, hey, maybe I need to know my blood type. Maybe I need to know some other stuff to look at. And I'm fat. I don't mind saying it. But it was a blood type. It didn't have nothing to do with my obesity. It was a blood type. And maybe somebody that's out there listening can ask a family member, for help, and they know their blood type and stuff like that, so they know what to look out for, just in case they get it. Because I was quarantined, my whole family got it. Luckily, my 3 kids and my wife are okay. They didn't have to go to the doctor and stuff. My kids running around the house, jumping around, doing crazy stuff right now. But because I had this particular blood type, which they don't have, like, these really my kids? I'm joking. But, because they didn't have that blood type, they didn't get affected. Same as me. And that's stuff that you got to look at. And I wish we as people will come together and say, hey, federal government, this is your fault. Instead of us blaming each other, this is the federal government fault. You got kids. I mean, you got children. So, that's stuff that you just got to look at. And I miss college football. This schedule was stupid to me. It's like, why can't South Carolina and Clemson play? Blah, blah, blah. Why you can't do that? But then when you get in, these people start touching each other and their blood types and all these other factors, it's not working. And maybe should have moved it to the spring. They're not going to do it. I'm happy that I'm going to get a little football, but I worry about those young men. I don't blame them. Why should I have risked my life? And all they're going to say, at the end of the day, you play college football. They make their millions of dollars to take care of their family and change their situations. I don't blame some of them for not playing. I mean, I don't even know what the Pac team is going to do. Hey, these guys, like you said, unionize. Take care of yourself. I mean, that's what made this country great. People unionized when they were being abused in the 20s and 30s by big government, by the people. So I can respect what they're doing, but like I said, I miss college football too. And there's not but so many video games you can play. But I hope it helps somebody, and I hope they do listen and go do their research for themselves about this blood type. Like, for they know that, they could contract it. I got a friend that's a bodybuilder. He's 64 years old, and he got it. And we were texting. I haven't heard from him for a while. And unfortunately, his dad died while he was in COVID. His dad got COVID. He got COVID. His wife got COVID. And he can't even talk to him. And I haven't talked to him about 4 or 5 days, so I hope he's okay.
Deandre, do you have any idea how you got it?
Oh, funny story. Money. I was, they did the contact tracing thing. Yeah. I took my kids to a car show when they got an icy, and it came off some money. That particular place where we got the icy from, 8 people contracted COVID from that particular place, and that's how they traced it. And the thing about it was, I have a friend that works at the CDC. He was like, all y'all got the same strain. Because there's different strains. They just don't tell you that.
Now, Deandre,
I think one of them like doing something with a rhino or something like that. I don't know all the technical terms.
Deandre, did they explain to you how they were able to trace it? How did they do that?
They trace it to some money. They trace it to the place. They got the money from the people, and they tested the money, and the money had COVID on it. Because it survived on money. It survived on services. So, it wasn't like the person was going through wiping it.
Sure. So you touch the money, and you wouldn't get the coronavirus without then touching your mouth, touching your nose, or something like that, correct? From the money.
Hey, yeah, it was on the money. That's all I can say. So I did something, whatever. I had my face mask on. My kids had their face mask on. Yeah. And maybe I touched the surface. Wow. It came from the money. I mean, then I had the negative reaction. I mean, I had all the symptoms. Because I was called, because when I got the cough on that Friday, I asked somebody, like, can I go? Do I need to get tested? They're like, nah, you only got one symptom. So, like, this couple of days, they're like, yeah, I got this, I got that. Yeah, go get tested. They tell you your test supposed to take 5 or 6 days. My test came back in 2 days. So I was like, wow. They're like, that saves your life because, like, you losing. I'm a big guy, so I'm like, I heard people say you couldn't tell that that your clothes were loose. I said, nah, I wear big clothes already. And they're like, you can't tell that you lost 20 pounds. Like, no, I couldn't because I was hot, I was dehydrated. I couldn't tell. And then they were like, well, when I got to the hospital and they started doing their test, they're like, it's your blood type. And my friend who told me to get in the ambulance and not have my family drive, she was like, something's dealing with your blood. You need to get into the ambulance. I like, well, I got to drop my kid. No, don't drop your kids off nowhere. Your wife's there. Get your ass in the ambulance. People say, I laugh about it now, but if you heard the conversations, it was like, yo, no, get in the ambulance. Like, don't have your family drive you to the hospital. Don't take your kids to your mother's house. Go call an ambulance. The 5-pound bags of ice. I went through one bag in the ambulance and a 10-minute time period because my body was so hot. And it was ridiculous. They were like, man, we got to keep putting ice on you because you are like overheated like you're a car. And they were like, why you just calling now? I didn't know. They said you got the symptoms, so they just isolate. I didn't know. And it was crazy. And so, like I said, I just want to share that with y'all for, we can have a better understanding of what's going on. Because sometimes what's put out there on the media or what you can read on the internet, people just don't know. Because sometimes you just might have a reaction. It might be different. I heard Bobby say he allergic to bread or something like that. I never known anybody allergic to bread. Sometimes you have a reaction to stuff that you don't know about. So, but like I said, I hope somebody's out there listening and listen to your show because you do a great job, and I'm grateful to have great people like you and Pete and Bobby. Yeah, I never hung out with you or anything and say, hey man, how you doing? How's the treatment going? That's the crazy stuff that you see. So I'm grateful.
Well, Deandre, you are irreplaceable. That's for sure. Your contribution on my channel is just phenomenal. And beyond that, you're a great guy. And I love talking college football with you.
I appreciate it. I'm grateful for y'all, Mark. I'll give other people a chance to talk. But like I said, just wanted to share my story, and I hope it helps somebody else if they happen to go through it or it's something that they didn't know. So I'm grateful. I hope, like I said, I hope we get football back. We're going to have football. It might not be with the football that we want, but we're going to have football. Okay. And I hope these young men don't have any, I hope they don't get it, and I hope it's unashamed on our system. But you have a good night, Mark. I've been listening to the show, man. Thanks,
Deandre. Appreciate it. Thanks for sharing your story. Appreciate it. Glad you're doing better, finally.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right. You have a good night.
Our man Deandre, BGOPO. I can never get this thing out. It just doesn't come out of my mouth. BGPO football funk. BGPO football funk. I'm going to go to bed tonight and I'm going to repeat that 100 times until I can say it. It just doesn't line up in my head. BGPO football funk. Our man Deandre. As you could tell from the call, got the coronavirus, did not respond well. His blood type had so much to do with it. And he talked about the strain put on the medical staff at the hospital. And obviously the entire household there was impacted and responded in different ways depending on their ages and their blood types and other pre-existing conditions that we've all heard about. But that is the first time that I've heard it directly related to blood type in regards to the general effects and impact to whites, blacks, Hispanics, and others. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark. I'm McD Sports 4. How are you doing?
McD, how you doing? I am going to tell you, McD, and everybody else on here, this is not turning into a political show. It never will. But obviously, Deandre wanted to share his situation, and he didn't go down the political path at all. I appreciate him opening up and being transparent about that. But of course, George started us out, and I would love just to talk about football all the time, but obviously, what's going on in this country, whether it be race relations or COVID situation, has greatly impacted the sport. McD, what's on your mind, man?
Basically, what I've been hearing the past 24, 48 hours, I don't know how long it's been. First of all, I want to talk about the Big Ten schedules. I think Maryland has a shot to beat Iowa in week 1. I'm not saying we're going to do it because it's over there in Iowa City, but I think we have a shot to do it. Week 1, first game of the season. They lose a lot on that team. I know the coaches pool has them top 25. That's something else I want to talk to you about. The coaches pool is an absolute joke after 20 through 25 as far as I'm concerned. I don't think Utah, Virginia Tech, Iowa, or UCF deserve to be in any top 25, especially Utah and Virginia Tech and Iowa. In my opinion, I think that has more to do with just who's the coach of that team or some. I can't even explain Virginia Tech why they're on the top 25.
And I wish I had the top 25 in front of me right now because I shot a video the other day. I did a call-in show. We talked about the top 25, and I wanted to shoot. I'm going to shoot a video because I've got my thoughts about the top 25, and I took some notes, but I don't have it in front of me right now. But go ahead. So the first thing I'm going to say, McD, because I'm always going to push back to a certain extent. What do you mean so-and-so deserves it and other teams don't deserve it? Nobody's done anything. So who does and doesn't deserve what?
I don't think Iowa has a top 25 roster. I don't think Virginia Tech has a top 25 roster. Utah certainly doesn't have a top 25 roster. And UCF, they have to prove it to me a little bit. I mean, that team went 9-3 last year. And I know it's last year. We're only talking about this year. But a group of 5 teams, you got to prove it to me a little bit.
Well, nobody can prove anything. Nobody can prove anything. So do you kick out all the group of 5s? McD, the point I'm trying to make is that you can certainly have your opinion, and you have your right to your opinion before anybody steps on the field, to evaluate the rosters and who's been lost to the NFL, who's coming back, who has been recruited, and all those things, and try to add it up to project who's going to be better, who's going to be about the same, who's going to be worse. But nobody deserves anything right now. Nobody's done anything.
True.
So I can rate, I'll put your beloved Terps #1 in the country. And people could laugh at me all they want, but they've done exactly the same thing as these teams have. Nobody's done anything. We can rank them wherever we want before they play.
Well, I'll give you a roster, a group of 5 roster that I think is better than UCF that I have in my top 25.
Okay.
That's not in the top. Memphis.
Okay. I could agree with that.
And I'll give you 3 rosters that I think is better than Iowa, Utah, and Virginia Tech. And in my opinion, I think that Louisville's not in my top 25. I think they have a better roster than Utah. I think that Tennessee, I'll say they have a better roster than Virginia Tech.
Yes.
And I'll say that Arizona State, I think that's a dark horse. I think they have a better roster than Iowa.
Okay, McD, I'm going to ask you the same thing I was asking my Ohio State guys the other day when we were talking about the top 25. Is that your analysis and what you deserve, what you think different teams deserve or don't deserve? Is that based entirely on the roster talent? Or are you looking at the schedule and trying to project what the records are going to be?
Based on the roster.
Okay. Because that's the way I do it. I don't care what the schedules are. So when I release my top 25 before the season, it's going to be strictly, I think this team is the best team in the country. I think they're second best. I think they're third, and on down the line to 25. I'm not making a prediction on how they're going to play against the schedule, because the team that I think may be the 5th best team in the country may be playing a just murderer's row schedule, and so I'm going to pick them to go 8-4. But I think they're the 5th best team in the country, and so I'm not going to unveil my top 25 based on the schedule. It's going to strictly be these are the 25 best rosters in the country, 1 through 25.
And I agree with that,
okay.
Absolutely. That's how I do it. But, I mean, I thought Utah and Iowa and Virginia Tech on there. I can't believe it.
Okay. Based on the teams that you just listed, so you listed, you said Iowa, Virginia Tech, and UCF do not belong in the top 25, correct? Utah, Iowa, and Virginia Tech. And then you said Tennessee. Tennessee was one team outside the top 25 and somebody else. Well, you said Memphis is better than UCF, but you said, was Tennessee the only team that you mentioned in the Power 5 outside the top 25?
I think Arizona State should be in the top 25 as well. I could Boise State in my top 25, but if you want to make the argument that Louisville, UCF deserves enough the 25 spot, I could see that argument.
Okay. Out of all the teams that you mentioned right there, I think that Tennessee's the best team.
Okay.
And then I believe I would take Man, I would love to see this new Iowa quarterback play because I'm a big Iowa guy. I believe in Iowa. But I tend to believe he on Utah. But I don't know that Utah is not better than Louisville. I'm not a big believer in Louisville. Everybody's excited about Louisville.
I like their coaching staff a lot.
Well, if they could hold anybody under 50 points, that would be a good place to start.
So, I mean, obviously all those teams, in my opinion, for the most part, deserve, I think, at least some consideration. But in my opinion, the thing that with me with Virginia Tech is the head coach. I don't think Justin Burnett's a good head coach at all. I think he barely keeps that team treading water. They just lost one of the top players, like cornerback. He decided to opt out. And overall, to me, that's going to be a big time thing for Virginia Tech.
Well, let's remember, McD, that one of the teams that you really like, Memphis, that program was built by Justin Fuente.
And Mike Norvell did a better job than Fuente.
Well, Justin Fuente built the program, and then he handed it to Mike Norvell.
Memphis never made a New Year's Six Bowl, and then 4 years later, after Norvell was there, he had a whole recruiting class and made me a New Year's Six Bowl.
Go back and look at Memphis's records before Justin Fuente got there.
I know. It's bad. I know. And listen, I'm not saying Justin Fuente is a bad coach or anything. I just don't think I think he could succeed at maybe a mid-level group of five job, and not mid-level group of five, mid-level Power 5 job. But Virginia Tech, they do expect to win there some. And, I mean, remember last year when they lost 45-10 to Duke at home? They got ran out the building by Duke.
Sure.
And I know he pitched back-to-back shutout against Pittsburgh and Georgia Tech. I know Pittsburgh. I know Pat Nardizzi's a good coach. That's kind of impressive. Georgia Tech, we all know what's going on there. But then they turned around against two very similar offenses in Virginia and Kentucky, and they gave up 39 to Virginia.
Sure.
And they gave up 36 to Kentucky, losing at the last second. Kentucky drove down the field.
Against a team that couldn't pass the ball.
Yeah.
Basically against
one-man shows.
Sure, basically against a team that had a wide receiver playing quarterback that you knew they were just going to run the Wildcat the entire game.
Uh-huh.
And they threw for about 75 yards.
Acceptable. So that's why I always get pushed back on Virginia Tech because I think he's good enough to keep them treading water, but that's it. Like 7-5, 8-4. But I think he'll be out of a job there in 2-3 years. I think he will.
And that's why people at times think I beat up on Willie Taggart too much, but not only was his offensive performance awful for 2 years at Florida State, but it came against poor defenses in the ACC. And the first game that comes to mind is the opener in 2018 against the Virginia Tech team, whose defense turned out to be awful, but we thought they were great on opening night on Labor Day night because they held Florida State to 3 points. And then they went out and gave up 45 points to everybody else.
Yeah. And I tried to suggest that Willie Taggart's going to turn it around, but after that Miami loss in year 2, I think he has to go. I watched that whole game. To me, Miami was a bad football team last year. And after that game, I was like, my God. I mean, Miami just dominated him that whole game. So, but I tried to support Willie Taggart some, but it just, after that Miami game, I said he had to go, and he actually ended up taking fire, I think, that following day. But the real reason why I want to call up is because of the college football season. I want to talk about the MAC canceling the football season. I don't want to hear that the MAC is canceling the football season because of player safety. That maybe has 5% of the reason to do with it. It really comes down to money. They're going to lose $30 to $40 million.
Yeah, so the
during
Power
this
Five
fall
not
for the
playing
football
has
season.
greatly
So I
affected
don't
the
wanna
MAC.
hear that it came down to player safety. What are you going to say?
Well, I'm
Mark?
basically, and I responded to a number of people that contacted me about the MAC to say there's basically three reasons why the MAC is losing so much money this season. Number one, all those Power Five games are taken away from them. So you understand as well as anybody that if you look at the MAC non-conference schedules, they're as difficult as anybody in the country because they load up their 4 non-conference games. Shoot, they've got, for example, Kent State this year is playing Alabama, Kentucky, and Penn State. So take 2 or 3 of those games for every team in the MAC. They are getting huge payouts, $1 million, $1.5 million per game. So that's like $5 million per team in the MAC that they no longer will get from traveling to the likes of Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and State College, Pennsylvania. So yes, there's no longer the big payoffs of playing the Power Five team. So once the Power Five canceled non-conference games, then the MAC was shot. And number two, they don't have the gate at their own games, just like everybody else. And even though that's not substantial at the MAC, they still average whatever 22,000 people per game over the course of the. So it's a lost revenue at the gate. And number three, with all the testing and protocols, that's expensive. And so you're right, they're going to lose $30 or $40 million, or they would have lost all that money because they didn't have all those Power Five matchups to rely on. Plus, they have the additional cost of all this testing. So yeah, it's going to pay off for them to shut down the season. Right. It's a financial move.
Yeah. And listen, it sucks. I'm sad for anybody that's a MAC football fan or a student athlete at one of their schools. But I mean, it just came down to finances. And the Big Ten, if they cancel, I don't know why they would cancel necessarily, because I don't think that would come down to finances because either they don't have fans. I mean, they have enough of TV contracts alone, I think, to at least make a positive net gain in money. Same thing with the Pac-12. Even though their TV deal is terrible, but I still think the Pac-12 will maybe have enough. But it won't surprise me if we maybe see the Sun Belt or the Conference USA cancel as well.
Sure.
I know they have plans, like I think 8 conference games, and they can play as many non-conference games as they want since Oklahoma State, not Oklahoma State, since the Big 12, a team in the Big 12, Oklahoma State, and the ACC are playing one non-con game. But overall, I do think that the Mountain West and the Americans, I think they're going to play. I really do, because the Mountain West, they have that TV contract with CBS, and same thing for the American. They go, and the ESPN for the American, they have those TV contracts, and I was looking at, I think they'll make positives if they play. So I think those two conferences will play in the group of 5, but Conference USA and Sun Belt, I know they have a plan intact, but it won't surprise me if they turn around and just cancel the season.
Yeah, because they're in the same boat as the MAC. They're basically the same model. They need those Power 5 games to make money.
Yeah. And I have one more quick question for you,
Sure.
Mark. I was thinking with this 10-game conference schedule, which I think is going to be good. I think it's good, especially once the SEC and everybody starts playing on September 26th. It's going to be every week you're going to get some great matchups. Do you think that college football should change to 10 conference games, you add an extra game in the season, go 3 non-con games, and just go 10-3? And you have to win 7 games to get into a bowl game, which is above 500.
Well, McD, I think they should play like 50 games, but we're talking about athletes that run into each other. They collide against each other over and over and over, so it's not good for their health. I would love to see a 50-game college football season, but the reason that we've come to this kind of sweet spot is that we've maximized revenue from these teams playing 12 regular season games, the 13th for a conference championship game, and so forth and so on, playing up to 14 and 15 games now. I don't know that they're going to, especially coming off what we've gone through we haven't even gone through it yet, but heading into this 2020 season, that I just don't think the timing is right to then extend these athletes another game. I just don't see that in the near future.
Because I think that would be a great idea to make up the revenue. I know some of these athletes, at least in the Pac-12, were trying to like negotiate certain terms. Maybe that part of the negotiation is like, hey, you play enough, and if you give us 13 games, we'll give you all of this. Stuff, like maybe do something like that. But it's going to be interesting to see how everything happens, Mark. Thanks for taking my call. Go Terps for being Iowa week 1.
Thanks, McD. Have a good weekend, man. Always love the call from McD. He's always on the cutting edge of the college football landscape and what's going on out there, and has a number of ideas that he would like to propose. How about this one? We go to 6 conferences, 6 major conferences. That way we can get rid of these ridiculous 14-team conferences that may at some point expand to 16 teams, and then they'll be completely out of control. And that way it makes the conference seasons more feasible, more understandable, and more meaningful towards playing for a championship. And then we can play a reasonable conference schedule. Then we can have meaningful non-conference games. And it just makes, when you play 8 conference games like the SEC and the ACC against a 14-team league, you're missing 5 teams. Therefore, there's so much discrepancy between the difficulty of the schedules. That's what I don't like about it. And this is not the season for me to tear into this, but I've done it in the past, and I've laid out my formula for improving non-conference and conference scheduling. But for this one particular season, I was just reviewing the Big Ten schedules. I shot a video just a couple hours ago and released it, and it was just very odd to look at every team in the Big Ten and look at their 10-game season and say, there it is, one additional Big Ten game, there's a 10-game season, no non-conference games. But hopefully we'll see some football. Hopefully we will see football. We need to see 2 things. We need to see a reasonable football season that concludes with a champion that is crowned based on competition on the field. Once I was starting to put things together and hearing all these negative reports about what's going on out there, not so much about the positive tests, but the interpretation of the tests and the player response and what they're starting to do. They're forming, they're organizing, and once somebody, and that was the Pac-12, and once those players from the Pac-12 organized and presented their concerns and made their demands, then you knew the floodgates would open, because this is the way it always works. Because the players in the Big Ten, the players in the ACC, and all the other conferences, the American Conference has done it as well. Well, that wakes them up to, oh, well, if they can set their demands, they've got a good idea. Let's do the same thing. What about us? And as Deandre pointed out, I cannot blame anybody for looking out for themselves in terms of money, but more importantly than that, in terms of health. I can't fault them for that. I can sit up here and talk about the low percentages of risk, but if it's not me out there on the line, then that's easier for me to talk about. I do feel as though, based on the numbers, if you really put the numbers into context, based on the ages and the health types, not talking about the blood types, but talking about the health conditions of those people that will be out on the field, man, I've seen the numbers and I've seen them crunched from so many different directions. We are looking at now Deandre, once again, is bringing another factor into it of blood type. But if you look at the overall numbers and look at it compared to the age brackets, it's a virus that is by and large affecting the aged. By and large. Don't take that to the bank to be 100%. By and large, it's affecting the aged. But if it kills one athlete or it gravely affects one athlete or 5 athletes or 10 athletes when thousands are playing, is that too many? Yeah, it's too many because it's not crucial to the economy. Now, when we talk about what happened months ago, starting in March, with the balancing act of health versus economic impact, and I'm not talking about the heavy hitters on Wall Street, they've got plenty of money to live. I'm talking about it impacting people that are making a paycheck that they need week to week to week. Now, that's where there needs to be some judgment put in place to not say, well, we're all going to go in our houses for 6 months. I don't agree with that. Deandre said that. I understand that, and I understand the perspective. And certainly based on what he went through, I can understand that perspective. I can't relate to what he just endured, and I hope I'm not going to have to. Maybe I will. But I don't think we could have done that as a nation. It was obvious that people were losing businesses and still are, and people are being laid off and still are. And so you have to say, okay, what's the health risk versus what is reasonable for people in the economy to be able to feed their families, clothe their families, turn on the lights. Because if we're going to go the entire run the spectrum all the way to the end of the spectrum and say we're only concerned with people's health, then why don't we all sit in our houses all the time? Do you know how many people are killed on the roads every day in this country? Thousands of people die from car accidents. So do we all sit in our houses because there are car accidents? I don't think so. So we need to apply reason to the health concerns. And you're looking at a guy who is really not fearful about the situation, but I go out with my mask on to protect myself, but more so to protect the people that I come around. And I do all the things that I've been asked to do, and I think that are wise. Wear the mask, wash your hands, don't touch your mouth, don't touch your face. Certainly, do I adhere to that all the time? Of course not, because just by nature, I touch my nose, I touch my mouth just like everybody else, and we started to hear statistics on how many hundreds of times we do as humans each and every day. But I have certainly washed my hands more often and more thoroughly, and I consider myself a pretty clean person anyway, than I ever have. And I'm mindful of what I touch in public and at work, not necessarily here in the safety of my house, but even though it could be contracted here, depending on who walks in the room. So anyway, we'll get back to college football here. I want to let everyone know that just a few hours ago, I released my analysis of the revised Big Ten schedule. I will do the same with the SEC. Should be released tomorrow. And I will do the same with the top 25 coaches poll. We had a call-in show the other night where we featured the top 25 coaches poll, but as is typically the case, regardless of what I title my call-in show, you guys just call in and talk about whatever you'd like to talk about. And that's why I'm here. But I would like to give my analysis on the top 25 coaches poll. And also keep in mind that we have had some extremely entertaining live streams recently. Tuesday night, Florida State. Friday, Miami. Friday, Ohio State. And then another Miami show with an appearance from Jason Parker for Florida State. Mixing it up with Cam Underwood from State of the U earlier today. That was fun. How can you support me? Well, hit the like button. Please hit the like button on all the videos. And if you want to give me like 30 seconds of time, when you jump off the live stream tonight, go to about 10 videos and just go like the videos, comment to the videos. I could do a better job of making the videos more engaging. If I was one of those expert YouTubers who know how to phrase a title and open their videos expertly and close them in such a way that is always drawing the audience in to comment. Like if I always said, hey, I want to get your thoughts on the Big Ten schedule, leave them down in the comment section below. But I'm typically focused on presenting the information. I got to become a better YouTuber to make this thing explode. But certainly comment all the videos that you have an interest in. Like the videos, share the videos out on social media. So keep in mind that even if you only have 25 people follow you on Twitter, or you've got 50 friends on Facebook, that those people have no idea who I am. You've got a sphere of influence on social media that I don't have. So if you're a college football fan, and you know college football fans of certain teams or just general college football fanatics like us, then share the videos out there on social media. And as Mark Thibodeau mentioned tonight, he has let, even though I am the enemy, I don't even think I can go back to pull up that. Yeah, sorry, Mark, I can't go all the way back to pull up your opening comment about I'm the enemy in caps. But Mark is still here just about every live stream to make his comments about Michigan football and to let me know that I'm the enemy, but he still watches, and he's even told all his friends about the podcast. That's what I need. I need more Mark Thibodeaus out there. I need more Deandres out there. And I don't want to start naming names because I'm going to forget people. Cheryl, McD, Luke Walker's in here all the time. Appreciate it. So just let people know that if they want to check out the finest in college football discussion, debate, and analysis, and if you don't believe that we are the best in discussion, debate, and analysis, that's fine as well. But that's the goal. That's the goal. Maybe we're not there every day, all the time, but we are setting our mission statement. That's it right there. Best discussion, debate, and analysis of college football anywhere. All right. Let's see. I want to let all you guys know, subscribe. If anybody's watching me right now or will watch this video, which once it processes and posts and sits there for a few days, will probably get 1,000 to 2,000 views. I would hope that all of you subscribe. It costs nothing. And if you subscribe, you turn on the bell for the notifications and you know when we go live. Because, for example, tonight, I had other work to do for my regular job. So I was working that shift actually right up until the time that I came on live. But based on what I was hearing, I wanted to hear from all of you. I wanted to talk college football, and bam, I sent out the notification for the live stream. So please subscribe, turn on the bell for the notifications, and you know when we are releasing new content, and you also know when we are going live. That's key. Give me a call at 860-325-3687. And keep in mind that the super chat is on. Pigskin Pete, I hope you're still on the line. Thank you so much for the super chat contribution. Everybody head on over to Pigskin Pete's channel, especially if you love Clemson football. But if you love college football in any way, shape, or form, head on over to Pigskin Pete's channel here on YouTube. Deandre, BGPO Football Funk. Damn, I got it right. BGPO Football Funk, Deandre, with a super chat contribution as well. And check out his YouTube channel as well. I am merely the voice of college football. So Bucks fan who I believe he was looking for some SEC schedule analysis. I dropped something last weekend on the SEC schedule format, and then the actual teams and opponents that were added were released. And so I'm going to cut that video because I've got much to say about the SEC expanded schedule. So that's going to come out tomorrow, Bucks fan. Also, Grun was concerned about what I'm going to do this college football season if there's no college football. We'll figure it out. Okay, I've got to catch up on this live chat. Christopher, that's all right. We appreciate the apology. It's okay that you're late from time to time. Please don't let it happen again. Oh boy. Based on the first two calls, which of course was George, and then it was Deandre, who provided a very insightful description of what he went through with the coronavirus. So I appreciate, and I hope everyone appreciates Deandre's explanation and his transparency. But yes, people making comments about the political nature of the first few minutes of the show. Maybe the first few, maybe the first 30, but keep in mind that's what we're dealing with in life right now. This is a college football channel, and for the times that we've drifted off into the political, I don't even want to call that political, the social, the real life issues out there, it's inevitable because college football is played by people, and those people have to live lives. They have lives to lead, and therefore they're affected. Their lives are affected by what's truly important in society. So it affects all of us. So sometimes we've got to deal with some of those things, even though I would love to talk about football going on right now. I would love to be talking about the opener between Alabama and USC in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. But we don't have that game. It's not going to be played. I would love to be talking about Ohio State and Oregon and LSU and Texas and Penn State and Virginia Tech. And I was really looking forward to those North Carolina matchups, Luke, against UCF and Auburn. And for our Florida State friends, what Logan Robinson has termed as a can't-miss win against West Virginia. But we're not going to see those games. Hopefully we see at least 10 games played, maybe 11 games. The ACC is planning 11. 10 games played in the Power 5, and the season to be virtually unaffected and played to the end of November into December, conference championship games, and a national champion crowned. As strange as it's going to be without fans, without non-conference games, with us spilling the season into December, maybe with limited bowl games, maybe with nothing but the college football playoff and the New Year's Six, possibly. Whatever we can salvage at this point, I will be grateful for and would love to see college football. Of course. I know our friend David contacted me the other night asking about my career, asking about the channel, asking about my thoughts on the channel and my vision for the channel. You know, if I did this full time, if I was doing this nonstop, full time, full throttle, it almost seems like I am anyway. But you know, certainly, what would this look like? I would like to do a call-in show every day. Maybe we would mix it up between a morning show and I'm not a morning guy though. We would mix it up between maybe a noon show and then an evening show. We would also, of course, have more team-specific shows that we currently have with Miami, Florida State, and Ohio State. How about a Maryland exclusive show, McD? Every Thursday night, Maryland Thursday night, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Every Thursday night, Maryland football talk. Sooner Thrawn, you should check out RJ Young's channel. He is good. He talks OU, but he talks actually Ohio State and other college teams, coaches, and recruiting. RJ Young YouTube. I've seen his thumbnails. I can't say that I've really watched more than a few seconds. And I'm sure he does a great job. I know that he's got a larger channel than I do. I know that he dedicates most likely more to it than I do because of my life stretching me in different directions, both professionally and personally. So that's one frustration that I have, is that I really can't make this as good as I would like to because of time constraints. So I would love to make that jump at some point to be able to go full throttle, full time all the time. But yeah, I got to say, Sooner Thrawn, that I am drawn to so many other things on YouTube that watching other people talk about college football doesn't really do it for me. So, you know, I'll check out Pigskin Pete. My guy Pigskin Pete's been in the chat tonight. Check him out for a few minutes at a time every so often. A little bit of Uncle Lou, and can't think of anybody else. And even though they both have my full support, I think they do tremendous work on their channels. I can only even check them out once a month, maybe. So, and that's for a few minutes. So I know that they do great work, and they come on here and really contribute and help out my channel by just appearing here. But yeah, so many more priorities than checking out other people's YouTube channels. So if they're currently a friend, currently somebody that I respect and know, again, I specifically cite Pigskin Pete and Uncle Lou, then yes, they have my support. And again, they have provided so much for me here that I feel like I need to support their channels to a certain extent. But in terms of going out there and finding a bunch of other people to watch on YouTube, yeah. I always find it interesting when I see people's names and handles that I've never seen before. Carl Burkale, and he's saying, good night, great conversations like always, Mark. Rewatch squad, keep it up, go Miami. So we've got a Hurricanes fan who's on the rewatch squad. Carl, it's great to see you. I hated that earlier today I missed somebody's super chat. Somebody provided a super chat. I missed it. I didn't get it to the screen. I didn't see it. There are so many things I'd like to do. I'd like to have some kind of a wall to commemorate and recognize folks like Cheryl and Kyle and Deandre and NCIS Fanatic 21 and Pigskin Pete and Luke. And there are so many of you, I can't even, I don't want to forget anyone, and I'm forgetting all sorts of people. David Greenshield and David Knight. And you guys are phenomenal. And again, I see that subscriber rate. I would love to see it go up by 1,000 every day, like some YouTube channels, but that's just not happening right now. But I am encouraged, and I am thankful when I see it go up by 4. You know, I may jump on to post a video, and it's at 21,640. And the next time I go on 3 hours later, it's at 21,649. And I gained 9 subscribers. And I think, wow, there's 9 people out there that in the last 3 hours who have decided that I'm worth the subscription. So I am thankful and grateful for that. And I always will be. But to really reach the kind of viewership that I need to crank this thing up and keep it going full time all the time, need to get that thing going toward 100,000. We're pushing 21,000 right now, thanks to you. I'm not really doing anything different other than got myself a fancy mic and an arm here that cost quite a bit of money. Of course, we tried to do something with the set. I'm not really happy with the set. Not extremely happy with the set. And actually, my camera conked out on me. So this is the second time I've had it's a Logitech C920 that's been recommended to me, but there is nothing noticeably wrong with it. I did travel with it, but just suddenly, boom, there's no loose connection. It's not working. And you're probably thinking, well, Mark, you've got a camera you're on. Well, I'm using my laptop camera, which is not the camera I should be using. And I would really like to sync. And I actually did purchase a camera for close to $1,000 maybe a year ago, and I just was not happy with the quality. It just didn't make much of a difference. But I see these YouTube channels at times, and I'm not talking about college football or necessarily sports YouTube channels, but I see certain people's YouTube channels, and they just have those beautiful pictures. And I get together with my tech guy, Marty. I'm like, Marty, what are they using? And of course, he's got a long list of, Mark, you need to look into this, and that. And I'm willing to make the investment, but the problem is the learning curve to use it. And because we do both taped recordings and also live streams, and not just live streams by myself, but where I bring on guests, the complexity of it all is beyond me at this point. There we go. So we've got David letting people know that I would talk about pro football because, believe it or not, there is something I will never talk about, the NBA playoffs. No, not talking about the NBA playoffs, Christopher. Maybe I could start a live stream. You all could talk about the NBA playoffs, and I would just let it roll. I have no interest in the NBA right now. But I love the NFL. There are some nights that I, could take my phone or my laptop here and watch old NFL playoff games for hours. And I see a list of them that I'd love to watch. This is what I'm going to be doing when I'm like 85 years old. And I'm going to be up here and I'm going to be blabbering on like a Joe Biden type where, I need to be given a cognitive test to, evaluate my sensibilities at that point. And I'm sure I offended a number of people with that comment, but I think it's just plain to see. Regardless, 85 years old, let's say I'm up here babbling on and on and on and on, and you guys are all in the live chat making fun of me, if you aren't already, and talking to each other and saying, remember when 30 years ago when Mark was doing this? But I've got the life where everything's taken care of, everything's good, I'm in a good place, and basically I'm living maybe out close to Vegas. Well, at this point, we should be able to lay down a few bucks on a football game anywhere. We're talking about 35 years from now. But I've always thought, hey, perfect situation for me. I'm living in Southern California, but this is pre all our current 2020 mess going on with the demise of America in certain locations. But I always thought, Southern California, San Diego at 75 every day. I've got a 2.5-hour drive to Vegas. I'm betting on football games. I'm talking pro football. I'm talking college football. I'm watching, my current activity is to rewatch the 1988 NFL playoffs. So I'm going to watch every game of the 88 NFL playoffs this weekend, just senseless, mindless stuff that I shouldn't be doing because I should be more productive than that. But yeah, I love the NFL. And I try not to be cocky or arrogant on here. So I know that comes through from time to time, and that's probably not a bad thing. You got to have a personality, and that's part of mine, is that I hope I'm humble generally. I want to be a humble person. I think it's a good quality to have. That's what the good book tells us, to be humble. But I will tell people from time to time, and I'll put them in their place, and I'll shoot them down. And I'll say, you really don't know what you're talking about. Listen to me. We're going to educate you here. So while I will put my college football knowledge up against anyone, and certainly when it comes to a historical aspect of college football, I actually probably know more about NFL history than I do college football history. And at one point, probably if you take like the mid-70s to the mid-2000s, before 2010, talking more like 2005, you could throw Major League Baseball into that mix. But yes, the NFL, there was a time, and this is broken down in recent years, so I can't live up to this standard now. But there was a time pretty recently that I would have told you, I know the score of every NFL playoff game in history. Just throw them at me. But yeah, that's broken down here in the last 10 years. All right, now that I've completely bored everyone, what do we got here? Mark Thibodeau, college football is the best, totally different than the NFL. Those pro players don't have loyalty. It's all about their paychecks. Hang on, Mark. Let's understand this. Those NFL players, let's see, what were they doing 2 to 3 years before they became NFL players? What were they doing? Oh, yeah, they were playing college football. Yeah. What, did they suddenly become disloyal people? No, they actually got a job. They got a job, and those players are just about as loyal as the teams are. You understand it's a business. The teams can't be loyal to the players because they're trying to field the 53 best players under a salary cap. So if you've played for the Los Angeles Chargers for 8 years and you're making $5 million, and they can replace you with a rookie who was drafted in the 5th round that they can pay minimum, which is $600,000, well, that's the end of the loyalty by the team, right? If the team was completely loyal, they would say, well, even though this $600,000 rookie can play just as well as the $5 million per year veteran, we're going to be loyal to the veteran. No, they don't do that. They say, well, we can save $4.5 million, play the rookie, and maybe he's got an upside. See ya. You've played well for us, given us blood, sweat, and tears for 8 years, but you're gone. There's not loyalty from the team either. It's a business. So there aren't loyalty provisions from the players either. They go to where they're going to make the most money. How can we fault them? We treat these players like they owe something to a city. I never understood that. A player, I'm just going to throw out a name. This means nothing. I'm not directing this commentary toward this particular player. It's just an example. Mitch Trubisky grew up in Ohio, right? Where did he go to college? North Carolina. Okay, so he has some level of roots in Ohio. He played college football at North Carolina, only started 1 season. He gets drafted and he goes play for the Chicago Bears. And we act like he should have some type of loyalty or be indebted to the city of Chicago. Why? Now, it would be nice if after maybe you've been given an opportunity by a particular franchise let's say the Kansas City Chiefs. They gave you a shot when nobody else would. They drafted you in the 6th round, and you turned out to be a really good player for them. And so it's time to make some money. And somebody's going to offer you $18 million a year, and the Kansas City Chiefs are going to offer you $16 million a year. And yes, it would be nice to see that that there would be enough loyalty to say, you know what, I'm going to play for $16 million here because they gave me an opportunity. They've been great to play for. I want to stay here. I'm raising my family here. I would rather stay here and make $16 million than go somewhere else and make $18 million. Yeah, there are those cases, and we see it all the time, where there's a level of loyalty. But do I have enough loyalty with my particular employer currently to stay there? If somebody else offers me, and I'm not going to mention where I work, but if somebody else in the TV industry offers me twice as much money, well, where's my loyalty? Am I supposed to stay loyal and work where I'm working just for the sake of loyalty, even though I just got offered $250,000 from somebody else? Okay. So that's only one layer of the argument, Mark, against your comment and your statement right there. The next one is, look around college football. I used to make this statement all the time. I love college athletics and specifically college football because while, let's say you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, your favorite player for the Dallas Cowboys could turn around and go play for the hated Washington Redskins or the Philadelphia Eagles or the New York Giants, 3 division rivals, the very next year. We don't see that in college football. If you're a Kansas State fan, your favorite player is never going to be a Kansas Jayhawk. Well, that's kind of broken down in recent years. Grad transfers, and now just players transferring even before they become grad transfers. I am now, as I survey when I do my research and I look at particular players, and I always like looking up stats. So anytime somebody mentions to me player X, and I just have a thought of how many yards did they rush for last year? Boom. I call up their player page because I want to know what did they do over their career. It hit me a few weeks ago as I continue to do that I run into more players in college football that have played for multiple teams, multiple schools, than at any time in history when if you called up a player, they played for one team, graduated, went off to the NFL or into business. Not anymore. So, Mark, I don't know that you can make that statement. The college football landscape in terms of player fluidity, player transfer from school to school is just as prevalent practically as it is in the NFL. And again, people don't just become disloyal for no reason. Those same loyal college football players became what you perceive to be disloyal once they started to earn a paycheck, just like you, just like me. I'm only as loyal as the amount of the paycheck that somebody wants to pay me.
The call will start at the beep.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, this is Sooner Thrawn. How are you?
Hey, Sooner Thrawn. I'm good. What's going on, man?
Well, just was listening, watching the show, and thought I'd call and see if I kind of agree with you. I think it's real going to be I'm going to be almost surprised now if there's actually a fall season, to be honest. Now, for what I'm thinking.
Well, again, I was having a back and forth with a number of people over the last few days, and what hit me was more beyond this coronavirus was the response of these athletes organizing. And I just think that the litigation possibilities and the conference commissioners and the presidents of these universities kind of backing down off these demands is going to be difficult. Man, it's just not headed in a good direction.
Yeah, I think that all that, and I just, it seems that the fear of something of what could happen long term, or even if something happened within the season, I think they are worried, lawsuits and things of that nature. I think that's something they're starting to really worry about.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, you're talking about litigation? Is that what I missed?
Yeah, I mean, if if a kid gets sick and
sure,
something that, and I think they're very scared of lawsuits, and I definitely say that's something that they're really worried about.
Yeah, that's what I stated off the top, and that's why some of these schools have attempted to have these players sign disclaimers, have them sign waivers, I should say.
Yeah. But a lot of times waivers, you get a good lawyer there. They're going to probably still be able to get, it's a good deterrent, but I mean, waivers can be overcome by good lawyers, depending on what state you're in and whatnot as well. So I think that's the real fear of all these universities, particularly everything that, and the players, I don't really blame them. They see all the money that's being made, and yes, they get a little bit of benefit, but they get a scholarship, but they're not the ones getting hardly any of the benefit of it. They're the ones that are going to be the one going putting their help on the line. So I can see why they are, and I don't think the universities are ready to take on all that. So I don't know.
Yeah. So when the players make these demands, hey, Soonerthron, do you have me on in the background?
No, I don't.
Okay. Just when I talk, there's a reverb and it's kind of difficult to hear. Anyway, so yeah, basically these players, I lost my train of thought because I kept hearing that reverb. So I don't know where we were headed with that.
I don't know. I do have John actually. I don't have. I usually have. I'm just usually talking to you and watching it on my.
No, that's okay. That's okay. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's just what I'm hearing over the phone. So I apologize. I lost my train of thought on whatever my point was going to be about. Shoot. Anyway, probably nothing worth hearing.
Do you think that if that happens, I mean, do you think they really will do a spring season? And if they tried that, I already was kind of surprised some of these guys that were opting out. I mean, I just can't see if they did that, any of the big non-games would play in the spring season.
Yeah, so the issue with the spring season is that you're going to affect the next season. So you can't just play a spring season and think that the fall season's not going to be affected. So you're affecting two college football seasons. So you have to schedule a spring season with the thought process that, well, we need to play a short spring season to turn around these kids to play a fall season.
Yeah.
I know that Urban Meyer said that that's not possible, that he is not in favor of the spring season. He thinks that these kids only have so many reps in their body to hit each other per year, and to try to turn them around in a short fashion to play a spring season, then turn around and play and prepare for the fall is not feasible.
Yeah, and the NFL has already said they're not going to change their draft, and I mean the combines are mid-February, early February. I mean that's when season probably would be starting. So I mean what? How could they do? They couldn't even do combine. I mean I don't even know how they would do that.
Yeah. Yeah, so exactly. Any draft eligible player would opt out of the spring season because they want to prepare themselves for the NFL draft, and the NFL draft would be right in the middle of the season anyway. Sure.
I mean, yeah, I mean, so yeah, I mean, if you do a spring season, it's I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense because you won't have the team that's the real team that you would have seen in the fall of 2020. And then, like, you know, you're running it so close to the fall season. I mean, it's like
Sooners-Thron, it only makes sense for one reason, and that's because it would recoup money.
Yeah. I mean, so I was going to say, financially, the only thing it does. You would be seeing the teams you just wouldn't be seeing the full. You know, you'd be seeing the team that you would see again in 4 months later in the fall.
And it also just seems like we would be going through the same routine, the same exercise in 3 months that we're going through right now. Let's say they said, okay, on February 1st, we're starting the college football season. Well, we're right in the middle of winter when the flu season's at its worst. So it's the beginning of February, and then the teams have, they need 4 to 5 weeks before that. So are we going to send these kids to practice sometime in mid-December to prepare for a spring season? Or maybe the spring season starts in March. So mid-January, still in the middle of the flu season. And at that point, we're not going to have a vaccine. So we're pretty much in the same situation we are now. We're just pushing the ball down the road, but nothing's been resolved necessarily. So I don't know what's going to be different in December or January than what's going on right now.
Yeah, and I mean, you're talking about the northern teams. I mean, you got it's the weather, although it's always an issue. I mean, you're talking horrible weather in some of those northern areas.
Yeah, well, the weather's really not an issue for college football season. It's barely getting cold right at the end of the season. But as you say, can you imagine playing, which for me, I love watching games in the cold, but I don't necessarily want to be there. I don't want to be there. I'll sit in my living room at 68 degrees and watch Minnesota and Wisconsin play when it's 8 degrees outside in Minneapolis. But I don't think they want to do that. And then, right now, the weather becomes a factor in college football in certain locations right at the end of November. It's not until the last game of the season, the last 2 games of the season, that there's some weather. And it's nothing close to what we see in the NFL in December and January during the NFL playoffs. But you're talking about playing the bulk of the season in places like Minnesota and Wisconsin and Michigan in the middle of the winter, the worst part of the winter.
Right. You're talking, and at the end of the year, you may have 1 or 2 games, but that's why they have the championship game always at a dome in those areas.
Sure.
And all the bowl games are played where there's domes or nice weather.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be Oklahoma would be chilly at first, but it wouldn't be near the deal. But man, up there in the north, the whole season, it doesn't make sense. You're right. You said for the illness time, and then just the fan. I mean, fans are loyal, but geez, they're going to go since 5 or 6 times when it's 10 degrees. That's pretty brutal. Yeah, I don't know. The spring thing really, and then you're not even going to see the team. You're going to have. I mean, you're going to have. I mean, are you having enough players? I mean, you have enough players, but you're going to have a lot of players that wouldn't even play, and you're not going to get. You wouldn't get to see the stars, which you're not going to get. I don't know. It's like, you're right. Financially is the only way, because they'd have TV. But you're right. I mean, we're going to still have the same issue. It's very unlikely that they're still not going to want, until you have the vaccine, they're going to want the same, you know.
Yeah, sometimes we
So, yeah,
come up with these
thing.
plans like we're not dealing with people. We just come up with these plans like, okay, let's add 2 more games and let's do this and let's do that. Or let's play a spring season, then turn around and play a fall season in the same year. Well, we're dealing with people. We're dealing with people that have to physically be able to do this. And, oh, yeah, they're students too. So, yes, are some of them not necessarily regarding the academic portion of their title as a student athlete? Absolutely. But when you really look at the entirety of college football, so few of them have NFL careers that, yes, that the majority of them need to be focusing on their studies as well, and we're cramming 2 football seasons down their throats in a calendar year.
Right, and let alone take away from the virus, the injuries. I mean, I've already seen it with my team. Just the first week, these guys have been trying their best, but they've not been doing their normal yearly, off season. And I've already seen 2 or 3 Oklahoma players gone for the season. It may have just been, but it also may have somewhat to do with their bodies just not on the normal regimen.
Yeah,
how can you do that? You play them February to April and then bring them right back in September. I mean, their bodies are, and if they've already gone, well, they would have already gone a whole year of not a real good off-season situation, and you're trying to now cram more into it. Their body may be so out of whack of it that it makes them way more injuries.
So just think about this. Just think about the math here. So we're playing. What is proposed right now for the 2020 fall season is a 10-game schedule played in 12 weeks. So if they propose the same thing for the spring, 10 games played in 12 weeks. Well, 12 weeks is 3 months. So what are you going to play? March, April, and May? You're going to go all the way to the end of May and play championship games and bowl games and all that in June? Well, you can't do that, because then you're going to so screw up the fall season. Okay, well, then are we going to back it up to February and play February, March, and April? Well, you're still playing bowl games and you're playing the college football playoff in May. I just don't see how that's possible. And then if you're starting to play the first week of February, just like we just started the conversation with, we're going to have these kids starting football practice before Christmas.
Yeah.
To get ready for
that's not going to be.
There's just not enough time.
And it's not going to be the team. It's going to be.
Yeah.
You're not going to have. You're going to have anybody that's somewhat thinking about going to the NFL.
Yep. All those seniors are gone.
They're not going to play.
Yeah, they're not going to play.
They're all gone.
And then any draft eligible juniors or redshirt sophomores that are really good, they're not playing.
And when you're gonna, and then you start to have where you're talking 20%, 25% of your team that's not even going to be available for the season. But then you're not even, but for injuries, you start having injuries. You're starting to really have a real problem of having players. I mean, because you're already starting with 25% less probably before you even start the season. And then you just factor in, there's plenty of injuries, and you probably will have more because you have guys that haven't been used to playing as much, and so they get hurt. So then you got to have more backups to them. And then there are guys that haven't hardly had any off season nearly like they have, and their bodies probably. I mean, it could become a real problem, particularly for some like some of these smaller schools, they don't even have as many scholarships.
Yeah.
So it's, I don't know.
Well, people that are smarter than me say that they can play a spring season. But I don't. I can't figure it out on a calendar how it's going to work.
Yeah, and you know, and Meyer, I'm not the biggest fan of Urban Meyer, but he is a tremendously amazing college football coach, and he's smarter in football than 99% of the people that do it. And if he says they can't do it, I don't think they can do it.
And he laid it out
when it comes to football.
And he laid it out pretty well in regards to what I heard is he talked about what they measured at Ohio State and his previous stops, where if you're a star player and you're a junior or a senior and you've already started for 2 years, he figured, and they kept track of how many collisions those kids had, how many reps, how many plays they were on the field, both in practice and in games. And if you're Joey Bosa and you've proven to be one of the best players in the country and you're in your junior year, you know, we don't need to beat you up every day, all week in practice. You know, he knew exactly how many hits he had taken, how many plays, how many reps in practice, and shoot, we're going to line you up against this left tackle for three or four plays, get you some work, and then now you're going to sit the rest of practice. Because he knew that they'd only had so many collisions in their body to take.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the, and I remember Bosa was it was him or it was the younger Bosa, the one that kind of took half the year off.
Yeah.
And he was kind of hurt, but then he just kind of did it.
Yeah.
And so I mean, yeah. I do think the NFL, though, will have a year, but I was surprised. I don't know what you thought. I was surprised 66 guys opted out. Were you surprised at that number?
Yeah, I am surprised at that number. Yeah, let's see.
I mean,
that's
they're guaranteed one. They're guaranteed 150, and if they have a doctor that says they were high risk, they get 350. But I mean, that's 150 is like half the minimum, and a lot of those guys we're talking they were going to make millions and millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
So I was pretty surprised. 66 guys, that's just a lot. I never in a million years thought 66 would opt out.
And we're still. Well, I guess they're already in training camps, but so that's probably
they had to
declare,
finalize it by Friday. Friday was the
Okay.
last day. If they didn't declare it by Friday, then they're saying they're going to play. I mean, they can always say they don't want to play in a month from now, but they won't get paid. Well, I don't know how that works. I know they're guaranteed 150 if they just decided to opt out, which is about half the minimum. And I don't know, but I just was very surprised at that number.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I do, yeah. And I think I don't know. Yeah, it was a lot, and I don't. Last time I remember you mentioned about. I heard you talking about betting to be everywhere. I don't know if you're aware of this, but I have a buddy of mine that I live down the street. He lived down right on the street. I went to high school with college. He's actually an ESPN writer that does gambling on stuff. He put it on his Twitter. I don't know if you were, but August 1st, where the Wizards play, they opened up where you can walk up and make sports bets right there, right from the street, which is one of the very first places to do it. You got to go into the casino or whatever you do, but you can do it right from the street or where you used to buying tickets for the Wizards and the Capitals. You can bet on games right there. And I think they said that's one of the first places that you can walk up to that.
And where is that?
Like you said, that's in Washington, D.C.
Okay, you said the Capitals. Yep, I gotcha.
Yeah. And you can walk right up and place your at the ticket office and bet on sports. It just started that like this week. And it just made me think of that because, like you said, well, probably 30 years from now, a lot of places, it's already starting a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But, all right, man. Well, I guess we'll see what happens, but I think in the next week it may just all be over for football.
It could be. It could be. But we'll make it through. All right, man.
Yep.
Appreciate the call.
Have a good night, man.
You too. Have a great weekend.
All right.
All right. I think we'll shut it down for the night. 2:36 Eastern Time. We will do a call-in show sometime tomorrow, so keep the notifications rolling, and I'll figure out my schedule and when we can do a call-in show on a Sunday. Tuesday night's Florida State, and then we'll have our Miami and Ohio State shows later in the week as well. And, of course, I could pop up with a call-in show at any time. And I want to post videos here on the SEC schedule. I've got my notes right here. The top 25. And Sooner Thrawn gave me the inspiration to cut a video on why a spring football season will not work. I think we'll get working on that as well. Right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Please like the videos, share them on social media, and of course, make it right back here sometime tomorrow. Be looking out for the notifications. I appreciate everybody on here. Luke, Cheryl, Christopher. You guys are phenomenal. We've got Trevor on the line. Of course, Sooner Thrawn, who just called. NTIS Fanatic 21. Kyle. And everybody who's commenting, everybody who's been on the live chat tonight. 63 on the line. Thank you so much. Middle of the night, 63 on the line. Thank you so much, and we will see you soon right here at the Voice of College Football.